Okay. Ready? All right, good evening, everyone. You might remember me from last week. I'm Mel Cochran-Davis, Assistant Director of Leisure Services Department, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about Memorial Park. This is a Phase 1 renovation project for a park that was first opened in 1946. This is our oldest park, guys. And guess what? It needs the love. What I have on this slide is a timeline talking about all the different things that happened to Memorial Park over the years. The zoo, it opened in 1955. It's pretty old too. We've got some different bond referendums, an investment of $54,000 in the 70s, followed by another one in the 80s for $40,000. Up until recently, there hasn't been a lot of investment, and what we did get that was pretty significant was building renovations, because in that previous Q&A session, I mentioned that the building there was an old tuberculosis hospital. In order to keep that building going, there was a bit of money invested through SPLOST for rehab of that building. The dog park was added, the theater was added, and in 2014, you'll see that the lake forebay was dredged and rebuilt. That's a fun part of your handouts that I'm going to get to here in just a minute, so we'll discuss that a bit more. What we're going to talk about, the three main headings for renovation of the existing facilities at Memorial Park, is the replacement of the stormwater infrastructure, vehicular and pedestrian circulation, and then those amenity enhancements. It's important to remember that this is Phase 1. We went through a very robust public input process for a master plan development for Memorial Park. This is the first phase of that. That is the critical phase of the park. It's not the most glamorous, but it's the part that has to be done for safety. It has to be done for the quality of the community and for water and stormwater quality. Stormwater infrastructure. You might not be aware, but that lake at Memorial Park is where all of the water for the 5 Points watershed goes. And as more development's happening, and we're having these increasing rain events, and we have an increase to the impervious surfaces, more and more water is flowing into this park. When this forebay was dredged and rebuilt in 2014, it was calculated that it was a 96-acre watershed. When we started having issues with the forebay, we did a more detailed engineering study with consultants and discovered that some of the stormwater systems in 5 Points defeated the topography and is actually 35% larger at 130 acres. We have significant issues with this stormwater forebay. As you can see in this photo, that's the outfall. We had a rain event. It was about a 25-year storm. It overcame the forebay outfall. The water ended up going around the wall and out through the bottom of the forebay. It was in imminent danger of collapse, failure, and all of that just whooshing right into the lake. We were fortunate that Transportation and Public Works was able to do a fast repair that was able to buy us some time, but it's just a Band-Aid. And you can see here, this is a picnic shelter that's near that forebay, but where the park is at the bottom of the hill, all of our stormwater infrastructure, that some of it there's just non-existent, and that we do have is currently silted in, so it's not functioning. We have huge amounts of silt every time it rains washing right into this picnic shelter, and staff has to go shovel it out so that people can rent it. We're trying a stopgap measure, another Band-Aid with a low wall to try to route that water, but we're just creating the problem somewhere else with that solution. Again, you can see here's some other examples of issues that we have. This is the mulch at the playground that's washing away. We have to replace the mulch and keep that replenished due to all of the washing. And you can see how much silt there is sitting in that forebay pond. These are some of the continued issues. This is the path around the lake, and you can see that this is during a rain event where the lake overflowed into the emergency spillway. It's supposed to do that. The problem is the emergency spillway has failed. It's created a huge erosion gully, and it's just washing tons of silt further downstream, causing impairments and issues for property owners downstream. Also, I mentioned we don't have stormwater infrastructure. There's no curb and gutter on the roads at Memorial. So what we have are these huge erosion gullies. That's exacerbated by the lack of parking. This is additional kind of showing some issues here. where we have parking, we have people parking where they shouldn't, they're pulling a tire off, they're causing erosion, it's causing the silt to wash down, which ends up in the picnic shelters. It's just this snowball effect of issues that we've got to address in a holistic manner. You can see this is the pathway around the lake. Due to all the water flowing in, the wall that holds up that pathway is collapsing, so soon we'll lose the sidewalk into the lake. Everything's really falling apart in this area of the park. That's why this is phase one. This is why, for this proposal, we're looking at dredging the pond, dredging the forebay, rebuilding the forebay outflow, rebuilding the emergency spillway, and naturalizing the banks of the lake so that we can have this nicer area that provides some wildlife benefits, but also provides improved vehicular circulation. We'll add a few parking spots, provide pedestrian circulation, but we will also be making everything function better from a stormwater perspective, because when we look at that road, we'll be putting in curb and gutter and the proper stormwater controls for that. One thing I will add is when buses go the wrong way on this road, they actually get stuck because of the slope, so we have all sorts of issues here that we need to fix. Which brings me to the next one, the dog park. Dog park was built by well-intentioned people, and it's really popular, and people love it. Who doesn't love dogs? Who doesn't love taking your dog to the dog park? We have, of course, erosion, the thing that happens at Memorial Park right now. You can see how eroded this is, and if you look, you see this lovely boxer is looking over the fence because he's standing on about 3 feet of soil and leaves and debris that has washed into the fence off the hillside that the dog park's built on. You can see here where the fence is failing due to that pressure from everything that's washing off of there. We've put in a temporary fence in front of it to keep Fido in, but we've got to have some long-term solutions. And because of all of the erosion, we're losing the trees in the park. So frequently we have trees falling on the fences. We're constantly doing repairs. Playground. Tying back into this whole stormwater thing, you see the wall around the playground? It makes an interesting pool when it rains, because all of the water that's washing the mulch washes in here. This will fill to the top, and then little spills of water will shoot out between the bricks and the masonry until the water finally drains out. But the playground itself is a mishmash of leftover bits of playgrounds that were decommissioned but maybe had some salvageable parts. So here we are with one of our oldest, most popular parks and a very weird playground that's a mishmash. It would be really great to bring this up to a nice standard with a playground that's accessible, and the plan includes a children's adventure playground, which is something a little different because this is one of those popular parks for the entire community. So a lot of great opportunities here. Picnic shelter upgrades, all of these next slides are just things that just need to be refurbished that will just keep them going for future generations and keeping them going for families to enjoy. This restroom, I'm going to hit on the stormwater and erosion thing again. The back side of the wall of this restroom is piled up with dirt and debris from dog park erosion. We've got to clean that out. We've got to work on these restrooms, refurbish those, bring those up to code. And so with that, I know I've outlined a whole bunch of issues with Memorial Park, but what we're looking at is really just something that's going to keep it functioning. So I'm sure most of you have been out there. So it is a popular park. It is an important part of the community. And what you'll see passed out to you, the handouts, that's the watershed management report that outlines what needs to happen in Memorial Park to address the basics of the stormwater and ensure that we don't have more system failures than we already have. So with that, I will take questions.
The word you used for the stormwater things was critical repairs. Of the $7.8 million that you're asking for, how much of that would be needed for the critical repairs?
About $3.5 to $4 million.
Basically, you're talking about doing the wiring, the HVAC, and the plumbing, all those things that nobody really sees but are critical to making something work.
Infrastructure is not sexy, but it is important. And unfortunately, you know, that's the icing on the cake with this, is that we would be able to have a nicer nice playground, because the playground is at the end of its cycle, and fix that dog park. And that dog park is part of the problem that has to be fixed. Yes?
Approximately how many people attended or yeah, attended Memorial Park last year.
John, the manager of Memorial, is here.
We estimate probably about 90,000 casual visitors. We also have school programs throughout the year. We have summer camp. We have a great deal of special events, but generally it's about 8 to 90,000.
So a lot of those are repeat visitors.
Right. A lot of people bringing their children out there and walking around, and that's part of. Like one of the slides you showed, if you're pushing a stroller, or pushing a wheelchair or something like that, and you want to go visit the zoo, and you want to go visit the playground, you got to push it down the middle of the road, not hope you get hit by a car. There's no sidewalk linking the different areas of the park.
You said additional parking, correct?
It's a couple of spaces, not a whole lot. There's not a lot of room. But we're reconfiguring the pavement that's there to make it more efficient as far as the parking goes. And that's where kind of all of this is related, is to fix the stormwater so that the lake isn't filling. You need to fix the road, install curb and gutter so that it's not crumbling, because if you just fix the lake and the forebay, you've still got all the soil and everything washing into it. Same thing with the dog park. Yes.
No arborist, but if you're over there at the Burkmore Trail area, you got an enormous amount of erosion. It looks like it's leading to trees having issues, a lot of trees tumbling over. Will the issues with the stormwater be addressed in Memorial Park help with any of those erosion issues?
Unfortunately, that's part of a later phase. We had to figure out how to put this into bite-sized chunks, and because those were in less kind of critical areas of the park, we're hoping we can address those later, but we're also working to see if there is anything coming off the road system that we could get addressed as a stopgap. But you're exactly right. We are losing trees all over the park due to erosion.
But you gotta do this while you can address it.
This is, for us, setting priorities. This is absolutely priority one.
And that's just priority one. Maybe I'm mixing the issues, but I think leisure services has a host of projects. So would this be the top project, or would this be project 4 out of, I forget, 28, 27? There's a lot.
I think when you look at this project, we have to address this. It's gonna be high priority because it's failed. And this is the only opportunity we really have to get the magnitude of funding that we need to fix this park. And
like
this,
the top 5?
what now?
Is this
That's
like
right.
the top 5?
I would say so. I mean, you know, we have a lot of things, but this one to me is necessary, and I rank it very high just because this isn't just about the park. It's about the entire 5 Points area that feeds the park. Kent?
I was just gonna say, from a leisure service standpoint, we have only submitted 5 projects. So we have many valuable partners. Right.
Yes. I wasn't gonna go there, but I was gonna say we have submitted 5 projects.
I don't want to try to prioritize our partners' projects, because all of them are very important. We submitted what we felt were the 5 most urgent from our standpoint as a department.
Melissa, are there any next state or national grants for something? I mean, it is a disaster area, and it seems to me that this is important enough to be given attention by, you know, a large grant. Yeah.
I have not found any multi-million-dollar stormwater grants. You know, there's some smaller things we could do, and we could look at using these funds for matching for smaller grants, which they're perfect for. But the sheer scope of this, there just hasn't been anything large enough to really tackle something of this scope.
In your field, with what you're doing now, with grants, have you known other parks to have gotten grants to kind of match some of these type of expenses, and if so, how much have the grants been for?
Most of the grants tend to be for fun things, not for, like I said, no one really cares about infrastructure, and even in sponsorships, no one wants to be the, you know, so-and-so stormwater pond. It's not as exciting as like a ball field or something like that. But I know we've got a grant writer, so we are able to help. She's very good at taking funds and using them for matching. As far as similar types of grants and what we've gotten about $50,000 a pop from a private foundation for some bridges and some trail repair work. And I don't know, Kent, do you know of any other larger grants that we've been able to secure?
We haven't been able to find any. We've been searching, but so far we've come up with.
Yeah.
How close are you to the park becoming dangerous or unusable on this stormwater dimension?
Quite frankly, I'm shocked it hasn't become that way with the past rain that we've had. And, you know, thankfully it hasn't failed. But the minute we get enough of a rain event that the forebay fails and then all of that silt flushes into the lake, that lake helps control some of the flooding. And once that happens, then we don't have the capacity to handle that stormwater coming in, and then we could face possible dam failure or anything further downstream. So we're on borrowed time.
I mean, there are children that go to that park and families with,
Yeah,
it seems to me there's a safety issue at some point.
There is a safety issue, and there's a safety issue for people downstream of the lake.
What would be the consequence of the dam failing?
The forebay or the main dam?
The
The-
main.
If the main lake failed, the last dam study we had, so there was not an imminent loss or threat to life, but there was to property. So some of those very nice homes down through there would probably end up with some water and silt in them, and some of those apartment structures and things. So there would be property damage downstream, but right now, thankfully, it's not in the way where they think it would cause any harm to life. Anyone else got anything?
Thanks for the breakdown on all the costs, that's helpful.
Oh, sure, you're welcome. And please look at that engineer's report. It outlines, a lot of the whys, and it's very technical, but it breaks things down for you. Hmm?
I can do the math, but I'm not very good at math. Could you tell us the total that you're asking for of your 5 projects that you submitted? I just don't have it in front of me.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Next time we come back, have a
We'll be back next week.
Between now and then, I just wondered if you had that.
We don't.
We'll be back this week.
Just email it to Keith,
Yeah. We'll get
and he'll send it to all of us.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Question form, Francis, when I submit that question, we should fill it out.
Oh, this is exciting. I've been waiting to use that. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Francis, 58.
58 million.
Did you use your spreadsheet?